Hello, I'm Dave Grossi. They've been called America's greatest generation. Young men, some as young as 15, who put aside the most formative years of their life to help defend freedom during World War II. Years that should have been spent going to baseball games, attending college, going out on dates, but instead they willingly put their lives on hold, put on a uniform, left their cities and towns for parts unknown, in essence saved America from the tyranny that was spreading across Europe and that had indeed come home on December 7th, 1941. This is their story. The Department of Veterans Affairs estimates that there are fewer than 1 million World War II vets still alive out of the 16 million that served during the war. And the VA also estimates that well over 400 die every day, and that by 2036 there will be no World War II vets left. You're going to meet some of these incredible people now. Listen as Staff Sergeant Bill Pace, a Purple Heart recipient, recalls his story about how he was forced to bail out of a B-17 bomber 5 miles up over Germany when his plane was struck, and then how he spent the last few months of the war in 2 POW camps in Germany. And Army PFC Lloyd Roush, who helped liberate the infamous Dachau concentration camp, and Staff Sergeant Mario Grossi, who helped liberate the notorious Woblin concentration camp. They'll describe for you the horrors, the sights, the smells that only a veteran who's been there and done that can describe. Army hero Tech Sergeant George West, recipient of the Silver Star for gallantry, and he'll relate how his citation calls what he became a one-man patrol when his unit was almost wiped out in Germany. You'll be spellbound by Navy veteran Vic Bucket, one of only a handful of survivors of the USS Indianapolis that was torpedoed by a Japanese sub during a top-secret mission delivering the components of the atomic bomb that helped end the war in Japan. He'll describe for you his experiences during his struggle for survival over 4 days in shark-infested waters, watching as over 600 of his crewmates drowned or were eaten alive by sharks when their ship's distress signals were ignored. Their stories will undoubtedly invoke many emotions: pride, sorrow, even anger. But as our film progresses, I'm convinced that those emotions will compel you to watch and listen. For several of these vets, it's the very first time they've related their wartime experiences, but they've all agreed to be part of this most important historical and educational project. Hear now as these heroes tell their stories of their years spent in Europe, the Pacific, or in critical duties stateside. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bonita Springs Historical Society is proud to present Bonita's Greatest Generation in their own words.
Raymond Filmore. I was the 8th Artillery Battalion, the 25th Infantry Division.
You were drafted at 18?
Yes.
Okay, where? What city?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And what unit were you assigned to after you got out of basic? You were in the infantry? What unit? Do you remember?
8th Field Artillery Battalion. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
8th Field Artillery Battalion.
8th Artillery Battalion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and where was your first base that you were assigned to after that?
Philippines. We went from Philippines to Japan when we was over then.
You went right to the Philippines?
Mm-hmm.
Did you serve your whole, you were in 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Did you serve your whole 2 years in the Philippines?
No.
No? What are some of the other places that you went to?
Japan. I did an occupation in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
After Japan surrendered. In Gishu Air Force Base I was at. Stand guard there. The Air Force Base there. In Japan. I was a young kid then.
You were a young kid? Okay. How old were you when you went into the service?
18.
18? And what branch were you in?
Army.
Army. Tell us some of the places that you've been, some of your experiences when you first went into the service.
I started drafting. They took me down to Camp Wheeler, Georgia first. I went to training there, and I went from Camp Wheeler, Georgia, went over to Camp Rucker, Alabama. Further training, after that I went to Fort Ord, California. They shipped me overseas. We hit every island on the way over. Hawaii and all the islands all the way over there.
Where was your first overseas port, or your first overseas base that you went to?
Philippines.
The Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the experiences? What unit were you with when you were in the Pacific Theater?
I was with the 25th Infantry Division.
Okay.
And the 8th Field Artillery Battalion.
Where were you when you first heard that the war in Germany, the war in Europe was over, and where were you when you first heard that the war in Japan was over?
In the Philippines, I heard it was over in Japan. In Europe, I was home. I was 18 years old when I went to service. Mm-hmm. It's a little different. I can't remember too much. About 18 years old, little kid.
What was your first job after you got out of the Army? Tell me a little bit about that.
I went to school. As I got out of the Army, I became an auto mechanic. I learned how to be an auto mechanic in school. Mm-hmm.
You guys who served during World War II are part of what they call the greatest generation. How does that make you feel?
Good. Feel good, proud anyway. Did something good for the country. Yeah, sure.
If you could give a message to any of the current servicemen or people who are just going to be discharged out of the service, as a veteran, what message would you give them?
Get an education. That's the best thing. Get education, get out of service. It means change your whole life. You give you a good education. Mm-hmm.
Take advantage of the GI Bill and get an education. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When Veterans Day and Memorial Day come around, mm-hmm. do you reflect back on your time in the military? And if you do, how does that resonate with you?
I reflect that. I enjoyed when I was in the service. I was too young to not know any better. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time when I was in the service. Mm-hmm.
Ray, thank you very much for your service to our country.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for participating in this project for us.
You're welcome very much.
Thank you. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've enjoyed this program. It's been both an honor and a pleasure to help these vets tell their story. And the Bonita Springs Historical Society welcomes your comments. I'm Dave Grossi. Thank you.